right, welcome, folks. Um, Thank you very much for joining us for our informational webinar about the Master of Development Practice program in the Faculty of Environment at the University of Waterloo. My name is Christina Pope. I'm the Graduate Studies Marketing and Recruitment Specialist in the Faculty of Environment and your host for today's session. I'm joined today by faculty, staff, and alumni who will share their knowledge and experience with the Master of Development Practice, which we often refer to as MDP. There'll be information on the program structure, alumni outcomes, student experience, and admissions requirements, and then we'll end the webinar with a Q&A session with questions from you, our audience. A couple of important housekeeping items before we proceed. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be distributed by email to all registrants about 24 hours after the webinar concludes. And in that email, with the webinar recording, I will include any of the important web links that I talk about today. For the Q&A segment, as an attendee at this webinar, you can't unmute your microphone or share your screen, but we encourage you to ask questions using the Q&A box. You can also upvote other people's questions if you would also like answered. We may not get to every question, and we'll be prioritizing questions that we feel benefit the broadest audience. If your question is not answered during the webinar, we'll be saving the chat history and we can follow up with you directly for anyone that we missed. Our first presenter today is going to be Dr. Cameron McCordick, who is the director of the MDP program, whose research interests focus on urban sustainable development and the systems that give rise to both compounding vulnerability and sustainable progress in cities. And then we also wanted to put a picture up of Jennifer Nicholson, who's the administrative manager for the School of Environment, Enterprise, and Development. And she's going to be your main point of contact for any inquiries about the MDP project, MDP program, because our former program administrator, Jennifer Doucette, who's joining us today, has moved on to another role. We're very happy for her, and she's going to be providing some background support during the Q&A section, but won't be your main point of contact going forward. And lastly, we're also joined by an MDP alum, Timothy Crincoli, who will talk about his experience in the program and what he is up to now. So to begin, the University of Waterloo acknowledges that much of our work takes place on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people. Our main campus is situated on the Haldimand Tract, the land granted to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Our active work towards reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is coordinated within the Office of Indigenous Relations. And Treaties Recognition Week occurred earlier this month, and the Office of Indigenous Relations has a recorded lecture on the treaties that surround the Waterloo campus from a First Nations perspective, if you would like to learn more. And with that, I am going to hand it over to Cameron.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Christina, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Hi, everyone. My name is Cameron McCordick. I'm the Academic Director for the Master Development Practice Program, and I'm so glad to be talking to you today about this program because it's really quite a passion of mine for development. And also, I'm really interested to meet all of you if you become applicants to the program, and hopefully we get to work together one day. I wanted to start off by talking about the administrative home of the Master Development Practice. That's within the School of Environment, Enterprise, and Development, SEED, within the Faculty of Environment. So the Faculty of Environment is dedicated to conducting impactful and transdisciplinary research that addresses complex environmental and societal issues. If you were to join us within this program, which I really hope you do, you would join a vibrant graduate community of 230 graduate students in SEED and 685 graduate students in the faculty. With more than 14,000 alumni in over 80 countries worldwide, you'll become part of a network of sustainability professionals embedded in all areas of industry. Now, the School of Environment, Enterprise, and Development, SEED, integrates expertise in environmental sustainability, business management, international development, and economic development and innovation. And one thing I wanted to highlight was just how unique an asset we have here within SEED because of the diversity of faculty that work within the department. We're all focused on finding sustainable solutions to some of the most pressing problems that we face in our society today, and we do so in partnership with industry, with government, with community organizations towards transdisciplinary approaches to sustainability. And so it really is an active, vibrant environment. And because of that kind of a network that we have with those different communities and organizations, it means that we have a lot of partnerships to draw upon for trying to facilitate some of the work or expertise that you may be interested in developing while you're within this program. Christina, if we could go to the next slide, please. So I wanted to share a bit at the beginning of our talk around the history of the Master Development Practice Program. And the story really begins with generous funding that was received from the MacArthur Foundation. The first MDP programs came online in 2009 with the aim of addressing the challenges of sustainable development, ranging from poverty to health, conservation, climate change, and other areas of focus. And in particular, I want to talk a bit about Jeffrey Sachs, who is a prominent economist from the United States. And he worked with the United Nations Secretary General on issues around the Millennium Development Goals, and then also established the Sustainable Development Solutions Network from the Office of the Secretary General of the United Nations. And he provided really the vision for the Master Development Practice Program, which actually extended into a global network of programs focused on developing professionals in development practice for dealing with sustainable development challenges. Can we go to the next slide, please, Christina? Thank you. And I will say that the MDP Global Association, the Master Development Practice Global Association, has expanded dramatically since those early days. We now have over 36 programs spanning 25 different countries around the world. And the diversity, the richness and the diversity of this network is really an asset here because you get to actually work with different students enrolled in MDP programs around the world, hearing different kinds of perspectives from both students and the faculty that teach in those programs. And this is because the MDP Global Association tends to meet regularly around masterclass webinars, also around different activities and events that are hosted by the association. And the reason why I want to highlight this association is because it's quite an effective platform for collaboration between students, but then also moving forward after you graduate from an MDP program, having a network of professionals that you can connect with when looking for employment opportunities, but also future collaborations in your careers after graduating from the program. Next slide, please, Christina. Now, with that said, that background in focus, I want to shift to talking about the MDP program in particular. So the MDP is a 12-month full-time course-based program that's delivered in person. There is accredited field placement portion of the MDP program that will take place in the last semester. That would be the spring-summer semester of the MDP program. And in addition, there are networking opportunities through the annual ICSD conference in New York. There's the student associations within the MDP SAC that you can join up with. There's global classrooms that are hosted through the MDP Global Association, MDP mini summits, and the MDP annual summit that provide options for you to be able to network with other professionals taking MDP programs around the world. And the program is structured to design the program structure is designed to support policy professionals around development practice through networking opportunities. And the schedule is intentionally designed so that the placement is in the final semester of your time within the MDP program. And this is done very intentionally in order to help students transition into full-time employment, which very often does happen where we have MDP placements with organizations, and those organizations may choose to hire our students at the completion of their placement experience. Next slide, please, Christina. All right, so in terms of the design of the MDP program, there are a number of core competencies that the MDP program is designed to be able to address. And those core competencies are around health sciences, social sciences, management sciences, and natural sciences. And these core competencies were really drawn from recommendations made within the International Commission on Education for Sustainable Development Practice report. And that report recommended the fact that we needed transdisciplinary professionals who could operate across these different disciplinary divides to be able to address sustainable development issues. Because we all know sustainable development doesn't stay bound within one discipline. It is a transdisciplinary kind of problem that needs to have solutions that are both transdisciplinary across those different areas of competency, but then also focus on action. That's where really what we bring into our focus within the MDP program through the practicum placement option at the end of the program. Next slide, please. And so you can see that in the way that we've structured the MDP program, many of the core courses are distributed across many of these different fields. We have some core courses like DevP 601, Foundations of Sustainable Development Practice, that actually touch on all these different fields at once, all these different core competencies. But we also have elective courses such as DevP 603 that is specific to health sciences, DevP 604, Sustainable Cities, and DevP 602 that are specific more towards social sciences as well. And so we've structured the program in order to address these different competencies. But at the same time, beyond the core courses that are offered within the MDP program, through the elective courses that you're able to take well in the program, you're also able to specialize in different areas of expertise that you may want to develop during your time within the program as well. And so the program is structured to give you a broad expertise base across these four different areas of competency, but then also to allow you to specialize within different areas of expertise that you may want to pursue while enrolled in the program. Next slide, please, Christina. So our MDP program is supported by a fantastic team of administrators. This includes Dr. Jason Thistlethwaite, who's our Associate Director in SEED for graduate studies, more on the research programs. We also have Dr. Heather Hall, who's our Associate Director of Graduate Studies for professional programs. Dr. Jeff Wilson is the chair of our department here in the School of Environment, Enterprise, and Development. And we also have Jennifer Nicholson, our administrative manager within the school, who is also there to support you. And the thing I want you to keep in mind is this is very much a team approach. There isn't any one individual that is solely responsible for providing all supports. We work together as a team. We are all available to you when you enroll in the program as students. And our aim within this department is to really see you flourish, to make sure that you're able to achieve the kind of career goals you're seeking to achieve through the program. And so we work together towards that end. So while you're enrolled in the program, please do feel free to reach out to any one of us. We'd be happy to chat if ever we can be of support to you. Next slide, please, Christina. All right, so I do want to share an exciting announcement that actually started as of this last academic year, which is that we have a new collaboration between with the MDP program with the Balsillie School of International Affairs. Now, the Balsillie School of International Affairs is a research and teaching institute that's focused on developing professionals within global governance, sustainable development, development practice, international public policy, and is home to a number of world-leading experts within these different areas. Now, within the MDP program, your MDP courses are actually going to be hosted at the Balsillie School of International Affairs. And this is actually done quite intentionally in order to provide you the greatest number of opportunities possible during your time within the program. Next slide, please, Christina. So our MDP students have the opportunity to engage with world-leading experts in the areas of development practice, sustainable development more broadly, international public policy, global governance, while they're in the program because of our collaboration with Balsillie School of International Affairs. And there's a number of different opportunities that are also available to you as a future MDP student, which would include fellowships with Global Affairs Canada that are made available to our MDP students. We also have United Nations internships that you have a chance to compete for while you're enrolled within the program of the Balsillie School of International Affairs. And I do want to highlight there are fantastic facilities also available to you through this collaboration. And so the aim here in this collaboration is to provide you with supports both through your administrative home at the School of Environment, Enterprise, and Development, but also through the fantastic opportunities that will be available to you as graduate students enrolled within the Balsillie School of International Affairs as well. Next slide, please. Now, just in case this is relevant for any of you, I do want to note the location of the Balsillie School of International Affairs geographically compared to the School of Environment, Enterprise, and Development. And it's just over a 25-minute walk. As an individual that makes this walk regularly because I teach in the MDP program, in addition to being the director, I will say it is a lovely walk. There's actually a park in between the two institutions, and they have festivals that they put on sometimes, like a lights display over the holiday season, and it's really quite lovely. We also have the Ion train that runs between these two areas as well, as there are a number of transportation options that are available to you if you're wanting to move between the School of Environment, Enterprise, and Development and the Balsillie School of International Affairs. Fantastic. Next slide, please, Christina. Okay. So I've spent a lot of my time so far talking about what happens within the MDP program. I want to talk a little bit about what happens outside of the classroom because a lot of the focus within the MDP is on the development of specific professional skill sets. And that's really a key component of the MDP program itself. Next slide, please, Christina. Okay, so to start off this discussion around experiential learning within the MDP program, I want to focus in on DevP 611, which is the MDP placement that's held in the final semester of the program. This is the spring-summer semester. So you have a number of options for completing this placement. For one, you can, if you choose to, enroll in a project course. This would be a course that's focused on development practice, engaged in some form of project that's related to the MDP program. And we're currently working on options available for this kind of project course with work integrated learning on campus here at the University of Waterloo. Another option you can pursue is a fellowship with Global Affairs Canada. These are offered through the Balsley School of International Affairs. And what they allow you to do is work with other graduate students across the programs offered by Balsley School to prepare a policy brief for presentation to the Global Affairs Canada on a pressing development issue. This also will result in a publication that you will co-author in that policy brief. And for many of our students, this has actually been quite impactful because many of them have actually been recognized for their contributions to these very relevant policy briefs on pressing development issues. You can also choose to engage in a research opportunity. Many times, professors will actually recruit from out of our program to engage in some kind of field work related to one of their project. This is organized where students are interested in faculty research project and the faculty members then are willing to take on the interested student for some kind of a graduate research opportunity during the spring summer semester. But finally, and actually an option that many students pursue as well, is a student organized placement experience. So students may have special interests to seek out and work with particular organizations within existing internship opportunities. Just to reiterate, though, I want to note that these opportunities can be paid or unpaid in terms of the kind of internship that you actually seek out. And you actually will have a diversity of options, both within the placement experience, but then also among the other options I've just listed for completing the DEP 611 course held over the summer and spring semester. Thank you, Christina. Can we go to the next slide, please? So with that said, I wanted to take a closer look at the student organized placement experience. Now, this is really focused on experiential learning, putting knowledge and skills into practice. It's considered a work integrated learning placement, not a co-op. But I want to be careful about something because for international students, you will be required to seek out a co-op visa for any Canadian placement that you may decide to hold during the program. The placement term is also considered a study term rather than a work term. And the placement is a 3-month experience that's about 90 days engaged in a learning opportunity for students that's based on experiential learning. So in order to be eligible for this MDP placement, MDP students are eligible to start the placement after 2 full-time semesters of coursework. That would be completed in the fall and the winter semester, where you would complete your core courses as well as elective courses within the MDP program. The search for a placement can begin as soon as the fall. Placements will take place in the spring on a regular placement timeline. Now, I do want to note that there are immigration consultants that are available on UW campus through Student Success Office that can help international students navigate the co-op visa application process. So I would recommend you reach out to them, and they're available for those supports. I also want to be clear about the fact that this is considered a study term, and in the fact that the way that the MDP tuition is handled is it's actually the total tuition is divided over the 3 different semesters. And so that means you will have tuition over the fall and the winter as well as the spring semester while you're enrolled within the MDP program. Next slide, please, Christina. Okay, so if you are interested in pursuing your own student organized MDP placement, here's what that's going to look like. The placement search process is a student driven process that's supported by the program. And so in the process, you're going to be searching for different internships or placements, applying for them, interviewing, hopefully receiving an offer. And then there's a number of MDP forms that you'll be navigating while you're on placement. And in terms of application timelines, it can start as early as your first fall semester for many private sector internships actually become available or advertised. And there's some international opportunities as well that come online in the fall. Many of them will come online in the winter semester from January to April, where we have Canadian nonprofit organizations beginning to advertise for internships and international opportunities continue. And there may be some private sector opportunities, but most of them will be filled. But what I want to highlight here is that this is not going to be a process that you'll have to navigate on your own. We make it student driven because we want to make sure that the placement aligns with the expertise you want to develop when you graduate from the MDP program. But you will have extensive supports from myself as an academic director within the program, and then also from the Center for Career Development here at the University of Waterloo campus. So there are a number of supports out there that are meant to help you navigate this process as well and make sure you're successful. Next slide, please, Christina. Okay, for international students specifically, I do want to talk about the visa requirements. So if pursuing a placement opportunity as Canada is something that you're interested in as an international student, a co-op visa must be secured before the start of the placement. If this is your preference, contact the Student Success Office and begin the application process for this visa as soon as possible because we want to make sure that visa delays aren't going to get in the way of your ability to take advantage of this placement process. All immigration, on receiving an offer, I should say, it is a student's responsibility to ensure that the offer is in compliance with all immigration regulations, and all immigration and visa-related matters must be directed to the Student Success Office. At all times, it is a student's responsibility to ensure that they are in compliance with immigration and visa regulations during the course of the MDP program. Now, students intending to pursue placements outside of Canada must contact Waterloo International to complete any pre-departure requirements before their departure. The reason why I'm highlighting all this is I want to make sure you're well informed about what would be required during this process, but two, I want you to know that you will be supported. Waterloo International is there for you as well if you're wanting to complete an international placement to make sure that you're going to be supported while you're in the field overseas and to make sure that we provide you with adequate training for you to actually engage in those experiences safely. Next slide, please, Christina. Okay, and I do want to just give a brief list of some of our past field placements so you can get an idea of what students have engaged in. We've had students placed with the Clean Technology Hub, Pacifica Cambrium Energy, Life from Water Canada, World Federation of Public Health Associations, Signalytic, and Boot Camps for Change, Digital Opportunity Trust, and even within the University of Waterloo, operating with WUSC, the World University Services Canada, there are a number of different options that are available to you. And this is just a short list of the many different placement experiences that students have had. And so I do want you to know that there is a diversity of options available to you, and we are here to support you to make sure that those options align with your future career goals. All right, thank you so much, Christina. I think that's all the slides that I have for now, and I'll hand it over to you then.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Cameron. And yeah, speaking of future career goals, I wanted to share a little bit of of alumni data that we have for Masters of Development practice graduates within the last 5 years of graduation. And when we look at alumni from the MDP program, we find that they end up in a variety of different sectors, the largest being social advocacy organizations. So some examples include Oxfam Canada, Plan International Canada, Canadian Red Cross, and the United Nations Population Fund. The second largest sector of employment we found is the professional, scientific, and technical services sector, which includes businesses that provide specialized expertise, such as environmental engineering research and consulting service. These firms primarily offer knowledge-based services relying on highly skilled professionals like our MDP alumni to support clients across industries. So some employers include IDC, KPMG, and City Collab. And then other sectors that we found alum working in include public administration. So we have people working in the federal, provincial, and local levels. And other sectors include education services and healthcare and social assistance sectors. So really a wide range of opportunities for MDP graduates, depending on what area they're interested in pursuing after graduation. And luckily, we're joined today by an MDP alumni, Timothy Crincoli, who's going to talk a little bit about his experience in the program and what he's up to now. Take it away.
Hey, thank you so much. Just want to confirm that you can hear me. Perfect. Sounds good. Yeah, so I'm excited to be here and chat with you all a little bit about my experience in the MDP program. So my name is Tim Crincoli, and I graduated actually a little bit earlier this year in 2025. So yeah, before I get talking about the MDP program, I think it's important to note kind of the reasons why I actually joined it in the first place. So, a bit of background about myself is that I had completed an undergrad degree in international development and affairs from the University of Ottawa. And I found that that was a really great experience to get to know the theory of international development, as well as get a bit of work experience for the federal government and civil society. But I just felt like it was a bit too theory driven and that I didn't actually have the skills and tools to maybe make an impact in the development field or in the policy space as much as I would have liked to. So that's when I came across the MDP program, and I really found that I enjoyed the interdisciplinary approach that it took to learn about a number of different sectors while also developing a skill set that would equip you to actually practice development as opposed to just theorize about it. So actually, my experience in the program, I'll speak first on the courses, was extremely positive. I found that the interdisciplinary nature of all the courses really suited me, as you can really choose what projects you want to go after in the different courses, as well as Cameron was mentioning the Balsillie School of International Affairs. So I also took a few classes with them, and I found that extremely enjoyable, just even to get to know students outside of just MDP to get an even richer experience. And in terms of the MDP, my cohort and the professors, I found that it was extremely beneficial that we all came from such different backgrounds. Like I said, my background is a little bit more theory driven and theory based, but a number of the cohort had been working in development practice previously or came from a number of different industries. So I found that it gave the classes a lot more of a unique feel in the sense that we all come from it at a different perspective, and I could learn from my classmates as long as, or sorry, as well as the professors about really interesting topics. So, an example would be one of my members in my cohort actually came from a financial background. So, just learning about how sort of the financial world views development and how we can work with people in the financial sector to forward development goals, I thought was extremely useful because, I had never thought of it in that sense before. Also, Cameron touched on that have the opportunity to do a placement, be that internationally or here in Canada. So I actually did mine internationally with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OECD. And essentially, what that is it's an international organization similar to an organization like the UN that provides policy advice for all of the member countries. So this was something that I've always wanted to do, was working to an international organization, and MDP really helped me to gain the skill set and the knowledge to be able to work in that environment and have all the skills necessary. So I was working mainly on policy analysis and policy recommendations for the OECD member countries. And I was working on a variety of projects related to science, technology, and innovation policy in a number of different sectors. So I think that's where I really benefited from the MDP education in a multidisciplinary approach and being able to research in a lot of different sectors. Like some of the sectors I was working in the OECD was agriculture, energy, transportation, all to achieve national goals. So that was something I think that would have been a lot more challenging if I hadn't already done it for the past year within the MDP. And yeah, going forward, I'm currently working for the federal government at Employment and Social Development Canada, where I'm working as a policy analyst. So essentially, what I'm doing is I'm reviewing our current legislation and policies related to privacy and personal information, and then formulating different policy solutions or advice that we can action in that respect. So also where I've benefited, I believe, from MDP is being able to develop that background and the underlying knowledge in policy, how to research well, all the core skills that's necessary for a career in policy or wherever else in development you may end up. I'm also volunteering at the NATO Association of Canada, which I've really enjoyed. So far, and kind of getting to talk to a number of different countries about their priorities on NATO. And again, I trace this back to my time in the MDP, kind of learning about how multidisciplinary development is and sort of how we navigate the different priorities of a number of different countries, I think was really my desire to get to know that a little bit better. Speaking a bit more generally now about anything else that I might tell prospective students about the program, is I think there's four main things that I've really always say whenever I talk to somebody who's interested in the MDP program is when you're in it, just to chat with as many people as possible, be that the other people in your cohort, students, faculty, because really I found that was extremely beneficial for me when it came to knowing about different opportunities that are available, be that volunteer or full-time opportunities. Also, I found that it really bolsters this program, bolsters your chances if you want to get into an international organization like the UN or like the OECD, because they see that you're studying development practice and you're specializing it, so they know that you're sort of an expert in the topic coming into it. And the final thing is just to make the most of the program, that you don't know kind of what the opportunities may come your way. There are a lot of them that kind of just come out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, that sounds really cool. I'm gonna jump on that and pursue that. So yeah, I think that was my talk. If anybody has any other questions, I'm happy to answer them in the Q&A.
Perfect. Thank you so much for lending your student and alumni experience for the MDP program. I'll take it away and talk a little bit about being admitted. So if you are looking to apply for the Masters of Development Practice, we accept students from a variety of backgrounds, which include humanities, social sciences, health, engineering, environmental science. I saw someone in the Q&A who was asking about an art history background. We do accept from a variety of backgrounds. You are required to have an honors bachelor's degree or equivalent with a 75% admissions average or higher. If you're applying with transcripts from Canadian institutions, we calculate that admissions average from your last 2 years of full-time study. And if you're applying with transcripts outside of Canada, that average is calculated from your overall average. You'll also need to compile some application materials in order to apply. You'll need 2 letters of reference. One of the letters must be able to speak to your leadership competencies. You'll need to submit a resume or a CV, as well as a statement of interest. So in a statement of interest, it's a maximum of 500 words where you're explaining your interest in the MDP program and why you think you would be a good fit. And then for the program specific questions that we're asking you, to go into detail about what aspects of the MDP program best match your interests, and for you to provide some experience about your leadership roles in the past and what experience you may or may not have with international development practice, even paid or volunteer experience. And when you apply to the University of Waterloo, it's a completely online process. So you set up your online account with a username and password, and then you can start your application. So you would select your program, input your personal information, and enter the required application information, which includes your academic background and the information for your referees. At that point, in order to submit your application and move forward, you would have to pay a non-refundable application fee of $150 Canadian. And just to note that that is a per program application fee. So if you're planning to apply to more than one graduate program at the University of Waterloo, it's $150 per person. Once you submit that fee, that is when your referees will receive a letter from Waterloo with a link to a secure and a confidential online reference form. And that's where they would fill it out. And the application portal automatically sends out 2 email reminders to your referees if they don't complete within a certain timeline. And you actually also have the ability to log into the application portal and send out additional reminders if you need to. And it's important that to note that if you're applying to multiple programs and you decide to use the same referee for multiple programs, they will have to complete the referee process for each individual program, because references are confidential and not shared between programs. So it's important that your referee is aware of that. I think someone in the Q&A was asking whether or not this is something that like a reference could be submitted from them through the portal. Unfortunately not. It's the referee's responsibility to go into the secure portal and submit the reference themselves. And also just a note that it's important that your referees use their institutional or professional email addresses, not like a Gmail or Yahoo account, in order for it to be easier for us to verify their identity. So once you've submitted the fee, once you get access to the online application portal, that's when you can start uploading your application documents or completing the application components in the portal. So that's where you would complete your program-specific questions. That is where you would upload your resume and your transcripts, your statement of interest. And then there's actually an application checklist within the portal where you can see what materials you still need to upload. Once you have uploaded all your required documents and your references have completed their reference forms, that's when your application is complete, and that is when we start assessing your application. So for our international applicants, if you're wondering how the academic requirements translate into your country's grading system, we have a list of international admissions equivalencies listed on our website, broken down by country. It's a helpful guide to see what our minimum admissions average requirements are. And that is one of the websites that I will be including when I send out the email with the recording. You will need to prove English language proficiency, which we call ELP, and we have several accepted ELP tests, which include the TOEFL, the IELTS, and the University of Waterloo has its own English language pathways program called EFAS. Just remember that the scores need to be are valid for only 2 years, and we recommend that you complete your tests at least 2 months before the application deadline in order for those test scores to reach us in time. And there are exceptions to the ELP, so you may not have to submit a test if you meet certain conditions. So one example is if you completed 3 or more years of post-secondary education at a Canadian institution, and there are other exceptions as well, which are all listed on the website and will be one of the links that I will be sending you with the webinar recording. And tuition for the Master of Development Practice program is charged per term. And this slide shows the tuition costs, which is the first value, and the incidental fees, which is the second value, and then the total cost, all rounded together and in Canadian dollars. Every grad student is assessed incidental fees, and those cover things like your health and dental, student services fee. And for students, you're also charged for a transit pass that gives you unlimited access to our Grand River transit services. Cameron mentioned that there's an ION train system that goes between campus and uptown Waterloo, where the Bosilli School is. That would cover free transportation between those two stops. And when you apply, you're also automatically considered for the following entrance awards. So if you have an admissions average of 85% or higher, you would be automatically awarded a $4,000 entrance scholarship. If your admissions average is between 80 and 84.5, you would be rewarded $2,000. But in order to be eligible for these entrance awards, it's important that you have a completed application by February 1st. And before we head to the Q&A section, just a couple of tips and tricks for your application. We look at your application package as a whole. And we don't begin assessing your application until after it's complete. So if you have one element of your application that you feel isn't as strong as the other components, depending on how your other components look, you still do have a chance of getting admitted if you have other work experience or very, very strong references. So in order to be admissible, it's all about the whole package, what you're submitting from an academic background as well as your work and life experience. So with that, it's important that you select your references carefully and make sure that these references have the time in order to submit a reference that speaks to your experience, especially with the MDP program, someone who can speak to your leadership competencies, in order for us to get a really accurate and complementary look of why you would be a great fit for the MDP program. And the program-specific questions or PSQs are a chance to sell yourself. So definitely give yourself a lot of time with that section and give it the effort it deserves. And because all of these are important components of the application, the biggest piece of advice is that you must give yourself a lot of time to complete your application. So if the application deadline is February 1st, we recommend you start at least 4 weeks in advance. And honestly, earlier is always better. And it also gives your referees a lot of breathing room in order to have time to compose a reference that properly reflects you. So the more time you can give yourself in order to complete that application, the chances are it's going to look more complete. It's going to be a better picture of who you are, and we'll be able to assess you more accurately. And then I just wanted to include the grad seed course email address. Like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, this is going to be answered by Jennifer Nicholson, who is the administrator for the School of Environment, Enterprise, and Development. And then we're going to have a new staff member in the MDP administrative role shortly. But just know that if you use this email address, someone's going to be monitoring it. Someone will be answering your questions, and we're always happy to help. And with that, I think we have finished the presentation portion of the webinar, and we can jump right into the questions. And we've been getting some great questions through the Q&A box during the presentation, so thank you very much. And we're going to start it off with a couple of questions. Cameron, someone wanted to know whether or not it's possible to see how the schedule of classes looks like ahead of time, specifically because they're commuting from Toronto and they want to know like how realistic it would be to be a commuter in the program. And if you're talking, you're muted. Try again.
You know?
Yes. Ah.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So sorry, everyone. I have multiple devices in my office, and they don't like talking to each other. It's really unfortunate. Yeah, so that's a great question. So in terms of the overall layout of when courses are offered, the information available online right now just shows which semester they're offered. The schedule of classes actually isn't formally announced until a few weeks before the actual semester starts. So I don't believe we can give a potential heads up on when classes will be hosted in the program. So we're waiting on that information as well. And the reason for that, we have a number of students across a number of different programs. We have to align all their schedules of courses to make sure there aren't any conflicts. So it takes quite a while to organize that schedule.
Perfect. And in terms of commuting, like, do you find that some of the courses end up being in a particular number of days, or would the commitment to commute have to essentially be 5 days a week in order to participate?
Right, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, if you look at the thing to keep in mind is that some of the core courses that are available in the MDP, you have a number of electives. And so you will be able to kind of switch between elective courses that best fit your schedule. We have had students in the past commute in from, say, Toronto for these courses, and that's tended to work out. But I do want to note it is an in-person program, but you do have the option of taking online courses for your electives as well. And so there is a little bit of flexibility available there. That's helpful.
Right. And I actually have a question that I think I might send over to Tim, because someone was looking at, for a little bit some examples about tangible skills that are being developed during the program offerings. So aside from the placement, what ways are these skills demonstrated through like course deliverables? Like if you had experience like with writing policy briefs or program evaluations, grant proposals, things like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. I think it's definitely one that depends on the class and depends what you're interested in. So, for myself personally, I think since I knew I wanted to go into the policy space, I was always looking to integrate that into different projects that I was doing. For example, like evaluating different policies as it relates to a specific topic in a specific class, or looking at the legislation in that country. So I think half of it is sort of what you make it. If there's some key skills that you want to learn, I would just encourage you to even talk to your professors about it or try to see how you can integrate that already into the coursework. Because I found a lot of professors are very open to, if there's a specific skill that you want to learn, seeing if there's any way that they can work it into any of the assignments or any of the classes, that sort of thing. Second, I would say there is some formal skills building in certain classes. So in one of the classes I took with the Balsillie School of International Affairs, I believe it was Professor Veronica Kitchen. She had a few assignments in there that were very specific to skills building. So it was that you had the option to write a policy brief, to write an op-ed, or to write like a first year introductory class to international affairs, depending on where you wanted to get your experience from. So I would say it's a bit of a mix, that some classes will have the bit more of an explicit focus on skills building, and other ones it could be, if there's a skill that you really particularly want to build, bringing it up to the professor and seeing if you can kind of integrate it into the class.
Perfect. We had a question on how the admissions average is calculated if you did part-time studies. And Jennifer Doucette is in the background, so she'll yell at me if I do this and if I answer this incorrectly. But my understanding is that if you're submitting transcripts from Canadian institutions, we're able to determine what terms you've completed your grades. And from there, we would calculate your admissions average based on what is considered like the last 2 years of full-time study. So it wouldn't actually be 2 years for your transcript, but we would make the equivalent of 2 years in order to calculate your admissions average. I would also say that if you're completing part-time studies, it might be beneficial for you to indicate in your program-specific questions or in your statement of interest of why you decided to complete your previous program part-time, because this program is full-time and we want to make sure you're a good fit for the program, like what else you were doing in order for you to, be able to handle the workload and the responsibilities of the MDP program, transitioning from a part-time program into our program. Someone asked if there was a PhD program for the Masters of Development Practice. So the School of Environment, Enterprise, and Development does have a PhD program. It's a PhD in Sustainability Management where you could work with a faculty member in a development practice topic. So it's not a PhD in development practice, but it would be in sustainability management. And we do have some, and I don't know, Cameron, if you wanted to add anything to this, but typically a Masters of Development Practice program, because it's a course-based master's program, it's not typically a gateway to a doctoral program. But if that is your goal, I would say that you should make sure that during a course-based master's program that you take the opportunity to undertake research and perhaps do like a longer written project in order to show that you have the capacity to undertake research in a doctoral program. So if that is your goal, I would say make sure that that's one of the things that you complete in MDP. Cameron, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah. And I will say, I mean, the structure of the MDP, like you said, is for professional skills development, but that's not to say we haven't had students go from the MDP program into a PhD program. So that has happened in the past. And what you said is exactly what I'd recommend as well. For the placement experience, I recommend trying to find a research placement experience that hopefully will result in a publication you can use to substantiate an application to a PhD program. I know this is a bit off topic, but PhD programs tend to be very individualized, so you will want to find the specific supervisor that you would want to work with and develop a relationship with them, hopefully in that placement experience as well. But we can chat more about that with students on a one-to-one basis when they come in the program.
Awesome. We did have a couple more questions about commuters and scheduling for the core classes. So it seems like we have a couple of people who are looking to take this course at a distance. And so what we could do is, Cameron, would it be possible, maybe I could get a sample schedule from last year to show how it looked, and then I can send it out with the recording with the caveat that schedules change. So it's no guarantee that this would be next year's schedule, but it would give you an indication of previous scheduling in order for you to see whether or not it's something that it's something that you could feasibly undertake commuting to the program. So I will definitely see if I can do a screenshot from last year, send it on to the registrants, and then you can take a look and see whether or not it's for you.
Agreed. And if I could just step in also, so the other reason why the scheduling is a bit complicated is because we try to align it with events that are going on at the Baltic School of International Affairs. They regularly have research cluster talks where experts will come in from different fields of development or policy practice and provide guest lectures. And we want to be able to provide students with the opportunity to attend those as well. So there's a lot of moving parts when we do these schedules, but yeah, happy to share the current schedule knowing that it may be different for next year.
Yep, perfect. And then someone asked if their application is rejected, can they try again? And yes, you can certainly apply to the MDP program in a next year, but our recommendation would be that there has to be some component of your application that's different from the previous year, because we look at all of your application components as a whole, and if we find that your application is lacking, you would need to strengthen one of the components or some of the components in order for them then to become admissible later. When would the referees receive the email communication to complete the reference, and what format is it going to be? So when you submit that $150 Canadian and you press submit, that is when your referees will receive their first email in order to log into the confidential portal and complete the form. So you don't ask them to complete a reference letter in like a PDF format. They have to go into the portal and type it in. And then, like I mentioned previously, they'll get 2 reminder emails if they don't complete it in a timely manner. And then you can actually go into the application portal and send other ones. Obviously, we don't want you to hound your referees if they haven't completed it, but if they ask for a reminder email, you can actually log on to the portal and then send one yourself. And someone was looking for a little bit more context on the leadership aspect of the application. And like, perhaps Cameron, you can talk to why having some leadership experience is important and like what it looks like when you're looking through an application.
Sure, yeah. So the reason why we pay so much attention to leadership in particular is because oftentimes when you go into the field as a development specialist, you will have to assume leadership roles in some capacity. And we found that there are certain skill sets that are really helpful to have in the classroom as well when we're talking to students. One of the key ones is around communication. Effective leaders are effective communicators as well. And so we want to know kind of how, if you've had experience or if someone can speak to that experience that you've developed. But leadership can take on many different forms. I mean, this could be management of different tasks that you may have been assigned at a previous job. This could have been a situation where you were assigned a task where you had to basically take on responsibilities as part of an overall work experience that were separate from others, where you have to operate independently. You can talk to those experiences. You can also talk about the experiences you've had, maybe even in your undergrad, helping other students through mentorship roles. There's a lot of different ways that leadership can express itself. And so what I recommend is to think through those different roles that you might have taken on. And you may even, when you contact your referees, ask if they'd be willing to be a referee, highlight those areas that you may say it would be helpful if they speak to those experiences as well. And in your own work, in your own application as well, it would be good to make a list of the kinds of experiences that might fit into that broad definition of leadership. We're not looking for anything specific per se. We're looking for broad experiences of leadership that we can use to kind of assess the caliber of your application to our program, recognizing that leadership is an important quality when you engage in development practice in whatever form that takes on.
Right, perfect. Someone asked, once the portal has been opened, I'm assuming the application portal, do we have to complete the application all at once? No. You have the opportunity to log out of the portal and come back in and submit additional documentation whenever you feel ready. It's just important that you complete the application before the deadline of February 1st. And like I said, there's this really neat application checklist in the portal, so you can make sure that everything is getting done that is required of you. And if you have any questions, you can always ask the grad seed course email address for them to look into the portal and make sure everything is aligned with what you're hoping to submit. So you have lots of time to submit it. You could start nice and early and do it like slowly over a period of weeks or months if you want. So lots of time. And then I see that there's one more question in the Q&A, but it looks like Jennifer Doucette is actually in the middle of typing an answer. Oh, there she goes. She's taken it away, which is great. So I don't see any other questions in the Q&A box right now. So I'm just going to wait for 30 more seconds to see if anything comes in. And if not, happy to wrap it up a little bit early. But I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank the speakers today for talking about the Masters of Development Practice program, sharing their expertise. And when do applications, there we go. There's always a couple more that come in. That's why I always start talking and then I wait. So when do applications start to get accepted? We start to look at applications once they're complete. And we'd start to look in earnest after the application deadline. So after February 1st, completed applications can start being reviewed as soon as that application deadline rolls around. So depending on your application, you could receive an offer very quickly. And okay, I'll go back to my closing up spiel. Thank you so much for joining us today, learning a little bit about the Masters of Development Practice program. And just a reminder, this was recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent to all registrants. And I will also include any of the important links that we mentioned today. And I will also include information on last year's MDP schedule, just to give you an indication of feasibility for commuting. Is there anything else that anyone else would like to add before we wrap up?
Thanks for your time, everyone. I hope to see you all when you apply, and looking forward to working together if you're in the program as well. And hope you all have a great rest of the day.
Perfect. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.